great to be here with you, and excited to be talking today about open banking, and everybody joining as well. So it's a pleasure.
Cool. We're gonna have some we have some more people getting ready to join. So we let them come in. So you're based in New York, and offices where?
No, so based in London. We've got offices across Europe and in Brazil at the moment. Brazil, yeah. Open banking is it's not a European phenomenon. It's actually a global one, happening in about 58 different countries. So Brazil's one of them.
How about other regions like MENA region and Southeast Asia?
Yeah, so you've got a number of different types of open banking. I mean, the different open banking schemes are inherently domestic. So in Australia, you'll have the new payments platform. It's kind of a domestic open banking scheme. You'll have Pay Now in Singapore. You'll have Do It Now or Prompt Pay in other places. UPI in India, and really, it's a way of, on one hand, you can call it democratizing financial services. On the other hand, you can simply say it's allowing people to do more with their bank account, and actually, circumventing, the oligopoly that Visa and MasterCard have built up over the decades. But it's happening in like I said, about 58 countries right now, and there's more countries rolling it out every year.
And the banks are collaborating, and that's, I think, one of the most important thing here. They all want to be a part of the change.
Exactly. They've been at the mercy of Visa and MasterCard for years. Now they're actually taking control into their own hands. And again, depending on the country, in some countries it's a bank-driven initiative where they come together and collaborate. In other countries, it is a government-driven initiative where the banks are simply told that they need to standardize and issue APIs and collaborate in that way. But regardless of which scheme or which setup it is, I think the key thing is that the end consumer benefits, and also the merchant benefits.
Yeah, that's correct, because in the end they do the transaction in a secure way that coming from the bank, there's a lot of confidence coming around there, and we have a lot to talk about open banking.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we can get started. Yeah, we have still people that are joining us. Wow, open banking is a hot topic, and yeah, we have quite a lot of people here. So thank you everyone that joined us today. We are happy to share from our experience here in Bridger and our partners' experience and products, and to give you some valuable information on how you can add or enhance your payments. You have the option to chat with us and ask anything you want throughout this lesson and event, and just ask us on the chat, and we'll be happy to answer. So hi Adam, nice to meet you. So yeah, give us just ask us anything, and we'll be happy to stop and answer. Let's get it going, Matt. So I'm here with Matt from Vault, Chief Revenue Officer, now in New York, here with us to tell us about open banking, the product of Vault, and the advantages of using open banking in your checkout. We've integrated Vault within Bridger, and the experience is seamless, and we're very happy with the product and how it looks, and our clients are happy, so we're happy to share with you as well this product and the experience that you get out of it. Yeah, let's get started. So, open banking flow. Maybe before, you want to give us the baseline on open banking. What is open banking? Why is it so different from credit card providers and credit card processors that we are connecting into our checkout? And for me as a merchant, why is it so important for me?
Yeah, definitely. So I think I'll start off very high level in terms of like, what is open banking? Because open banking is something that people are talking about more and more. You're hearing it in different conversations, but there's still a lot of misconceptions about what it is and what it isn't. So at a very high level, open banking is simply a regulatory framework that enables account holders, consumers like each and every single one of us, to share their financial data with regulated third parties through an API, right? Now, what does that actually mean in plain English? That simply means that I can initiate a payment from my bank account to a merchant's bank account in a very seamless way, and we can walk through that. That's called payment initiation. There's also something called account information services, where I can securely share selected information from my bank account with a third party or with a merchant to, for example, verify my identity, to be able to do affordability checks or a number of different use cases. So essentially, it's a framework that allows that. And within Europe, we know that as PSD2. Within the UK, it's the faster payments. But essentially, it's a framework in which banks issued APIs that third parties can plug into and provide those kind of services. Now, I think what's also key to mention is that open banking is not a European or a UK phenomenon. We were just talking about this briefly, you and I, when we were waiting for people to join. But open banking is happening in different flavors or under different names across about 60 countries across the world. And Brazil, we know it as Pix, and it solves for interesting use cases there. And Singapore, it's Pay Now. In India, it's UPI, and there's many other iterations of that. So I think that's kind of the key thing around what is open banking. And then if we zoom into what an open banking payment actually looks like, and compare that to credit cards, it's actually very interesting because with two-factor authentication, or the need to verify a transaction, a credit card transaction, the process of actually initiating and confirming a transaction from your bank account as a consumer is as good as, if not better than, a credit card transaction. Because with a single credit card transaction, you need to type in the 16 digits of your card, you need to type in the 4 digits or 6 digits of your expiry date, the 3-digit CCV number. Whereas with an open banking payment, you simply select your bank, you get redirected to your banking app, or you do it through your online banking on your desktop version, and you simply confirm the payment. So within a mobile checkout experience, is what we have on the screen here, is step one is you simply select that you want to pay with bank. Step two, you pick your bank, for example, Santander. You get redirected to your mobile banking app. You verify with Face ID, and you simply confirm the details of the payment. You have a transaction completed within 3 taps.
And a smile.
And a smile. Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's in terms of experience, it's a very smooth experience, and also one that adds a lot of confidence. You're paying from your bank account, paying from your balance. You know what you do. What does it mean in terms of chargebacks and frauds?
Yeah, that's a great question. So essentially, what you have with credit cards is you have your credit card numbers. You use your credit card when you go to a restaurant, when you pay for something. Somebody can intercept those credit card details and try to use those details to make fraudulent transactions. Which anybody that's processing payments understands how big of a pain that is, because you get chargebacks that you need to respond to. You need to hire people that actually respond to those chargebacks. You get charged for the chargebacks, regardless of whether you win them or not. And if you don't, you lose the money and the product or service that you provided. On the open banking side, there is no way of doing a chargeback. Once the money is paid, it is paid. So the moment you receive the funds on your account, that money is on your account and it's not going anywhere. It cannot be reversed. And then there's always the question of, oh, well, what happens if somebody's actually doing a fraudulent transaction from your bank account? Well, I think it's a much bigger security breach if somebody has managed to gain access to your bank account and can do fund transfers from your bank account, than simply doing one fraudulent transaction. I mean, that's a much bigger issue and a much bigger risk. And again, something that's also quite rare.
Yeah. And just from the money flow, So a user will pay with his bank account.
Yes.
And basically Vault will settle that money to any business that is connected to you guys on the settlement dates directly, like any other payment gateway or provider.
Exactly. So I think it's very interesting to make a call out here. So there's a lot of facts and fictions, or a lot of fiction still floating around in the industry around open banking, because open banking is referred to as real-time payments or instant payments, and in a number of countries, it indeed is real time, which means a transaction will settle within 5 to 10 seconds. For example, Pix in Brazil, the transaction settles into your merchant bank account within 2 seconds, which is a nice change to the 30 days that you need to wait for your money with a with a typical credit or debit card transaction, right? In Europe, that again, it depends on the country and even more than on the country, it'll depend on the bank. So in places like the UK, where you have the banks on the faster payments rails, those transactions will actually settle into your bank account within a matter of 5 to 10 seconds. If you look at Western Europe or Northern Europe, that's quite quick. It'll be a matter of 5 to 10 seconds. In some cases, it'll be up to 10 minutes, depending on if the bank is on the SEPA instant settlement rails. But then the further east you go and the further south you go, depending again on the bank, that can take some more time. So I think the critical thing to know and to understand about open banking is there's two sides to a open banking transaction. The first is the payment initiation, which is the consumer actually going through the process that we just looked at, which is saying, yes, I'm authorizing the payment on my side. I have the funds. The bank says, yes, the funds are there. The funds are sent. And then the second part is actually the settlement, right? So making sure that you have visibility into the bank account, you're able to get an instant settlement notification that the funds have actually hit your bank account. And of course, the areas where, or the countries and the banks where that happens instant or near instant, you have little to no risk of non-settlement. And again, as I mentioned, as you go a bit further east in Europe, those banks are yet to switch onto SEPA instant, where those things will actually happen instantly. Right? So the key thing is actually looking at making sure that you've got instant settlement notifications. I see there's a question here.
Yeah. Do you want to take it?
Yeah, I'm just reading through. So this question is that across the SEPA region, there's a chance of canceling the transaction after the payment has actually been initiated. And that is true, right? So that's why, again, I'm emphasizing there's two sides to a transaction. There's initiation and there's the settlement, right? So you want to actually ship the product or provide the service the moment the funds settle into your account, not kind of the moment that you get just the initiation notification. And yes, I do think that under PSD3, there will be more protection around that. I mean, if you read into the regulation around PSD2, the way that it's actually worded, PSD2 needs to provide relative comfort, and whatever relative comfort means to anybody. For me, relative comfort is knowing that the funds are actually in my bank account. Hence the emphasis on the settlement notifications.
Yeah. So, guys, if you have any more questions, we'll be happy to answer. Arthur, I hope we answered you. And yeah, let's move on. Do you have anything on that slide more?
Yeah, I think I do. So, I mean, I touched upon this a little bit, but what excites me about open banking as opposed to credit cards and debit cards, the fact that essentially everybody has a bank account. So when we're talking about what's the adoption of open banking and how quickly is it going to adopt, unlike PayPal or any of the other wallets. And by the way, for everybody, I spent the past 10 years at PayPal, so I'm quite familiar with how with how that works. The key thing is really how do you drive adoption of a wallet or a new payment method? And usually the biggest challenge is how do you actually get somebody to sign up for it?
To sign up and use and reuse. Right?
Use and reuse, exactly. And the truth is with open banking, you don't actually need to get somebody to sign up. Everybody has a bank account. When we're talking about Europe, when we're talking about, again, I'll go back to the example of Brazil. Pix in Brazil launched, I think it was 2, maybe 3 years ago. you've already got 60% of adults using Pix on a monthly basis. And that's significantly higher than any kind of credit card penetration. So what you're really doing with that is you're driving the democratization of financial services. You're allowing people who may not necessarily qualify for a debit card or a credit card or not want to pay for the fees of having a debit card or a credit card are still able to do transactions online, whether domestically or or internationally, with very simply from their bank account at at very low costs.
Yeah, there are some countries that credit cards are not the most favorite method of payments. Definitely, if you go to Southeast Asia, and LATAM, but it's amazing how businesses also adopt so fast this payment method, and how immediate it went inside. Because in the end, if you have this ratio of people, think about the amount of businesses that added it. And I think one of the most important things here is that the way to embed, the way to integrate, the way to add this online payment method in your checkout. That would be a big challenge for some merchants. And you want it to be seamless, you want it to be fast, and you want to serve obviously different clients with different banks that you guys are having. So that's another thing that you need to think about. Not only develop or get it, you need to think about how to integrate it well within your checkout, so exactly. It will cover the experience well.
Yeah, and I think that's critical, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the consumer experience and how they actually go through that flow is, it's the most important. That decides whether a purchase or sale happens or doesn't happen. And I think the ease with which you can plug that into your checkout, how smoothly that works, how easily that integrates with your existing reporting and reconciliation that you're doing, I think that's a key point for merchants, right? To make that decision. I think that again, that's something that that BridgerPay does phenomenally well.
Yeah, I think that that's the big advantage basically with this connection we did with you guys, is our ability to really unify the call to the merchant. So it's ambivalent if it's a credit card or now an online payments, and he can accept now this method within his checkout very fast, and enjoy all this reach in all those countries that you are opening. And you're opening, I'm guessing, more and more countries all the time, right?
Yeah, we are. We've got a pretty robust roadmap in terms of what we're opening. So we're launching a few more countries in Asia later this year. We've got a pretty heavy roadmap for H1 as well. I mean, essentially what we're doing with Volt is creating a global platform that will unify all the different open banking schemes in one place, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're doing. So today it's UK, it's Europe, it's Brazil, all available through one API, one integration, one account setup, all available through, again, that one unified experience through BridgerPay. Tomorrow it's going to be 5 more countries. By the end of next year, it's going to be 20 more countries. So, and that's again all available through one place.
That's great. Okay, let's go to the next one. Yeah, that's interesting. So cards are, a very useful method. People are regular to use it. There are many merchants that you can see only cards, and not even PayPal on the checkout. But the idea and the challenge is there, and they get this request from the consumer to add the online banking solution. But in the end, those businesses are really, like you said, that not all are completely educated on the solution. Some of them are a bit afraid on the parts of the security and the money flow. So let's really talk about what's the advantages. Why as a business I should connect it, and what's in it for me, and what can I basically see as an impact for my business.
Yeah. So I think the first reason is really giving consumers preference, right? So in card heavy markets, where most people have a credit card or a debit card, this is an option that consumers are still opting for because it's simpler, because you can do it with, like I mentioned before, 3 taps on your phone without actually having to pull out a credit card and punch in the details. So just that experience is in card heavy markets is still superior. In other markets where cards are not as popular, again, if you either operate in markets like that, like I mentioned Brazil, if you're looking to start selling into that market, if you're going to be offering just credit cards, you're able to tap into maybe 10% of the online population. If you're offering Pix or any of the other local schemes in other markets, you have much more, are able to tap into a much larger part of that market. So I think that's kind of one thing. The second thing is really around price. So I mean, Visa and MasterCard and Amex and all these guys, I mean, they've been around for 70 years and they've built a very nice business, but because of the limited number of rails, I mean, they dictate what that price is. And that price, interchange has been regulated to some degree in the European Union. With Brexit, interchange fees have gone up in the UK. Essentially, there are no interchange fees to be paid within open banking, at least within Europe and other countries. There's other fees to be paid, but still, they are significantly cheaper than accepting a credit card transaction. So I think that's kind of the second big difference. The third one,
first of all, basically, if I'm going to pay less in processing costs, that's
correct.
Like bottom line.
Yes.
And if I'm taking it on my clients, they would pay less. So yeah, that's I think one of the most important advantages, because in the end, what can you lose? Anything that goes on online banking, you just pay less. So I think it's just a win-win situation for a business now.
Exactly. I think some of the other differences is, speed in which you can access your funds. So again, if you look at credit cards, depending on, who you're processing with and what country you're processing in, I mean, you may be getting your funds in, T+2, T+3. So, 2 or 3 days after the transaction settles. In places. Yeah, exactly. In other places, you'll get it at the end of the month or within 30 days. And again, depending on what industry you're in, if you have delayed delivery of a product or a service, then you may actually be waiting 30, 60, 90 days for part of your funds or all of your funds, because the credit card processor is going to require bank guarantees or some sort of reserve requirements. Whereas with open banking, you get the money the moment it hits your bank account. And like I said, it could be 2 seconds, it could be 10 seconds, right? So essentially, that the moment the money's in your account, it's your money.
Understood. What about chargebacks? Do you want to speak about security and fraud?
Yeah, definitely. So again, we talked about this a little bit at the start, but there is no chargeback mechanism. There is no way of again, stealing a credit card number, buying credit card numbers on online, which we've all heard the stories of millions of cards being sold. You don't have that with bank accounts. If your bank account is compromised, that is a completely different story than you're somebody writing down the details of your credit card. So it happens very rarely, and because of that, there's no chargeback in place per se. So if once you accept the funds from a consumer, funds are on your account, those are your funds. So you don't have that kind of fraud around bank payments.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds reasonable. What can you say about the conversions?
Yeah, conversions. So conversions are, I'd say, on par or better for single transactions than they are with cards. Again, because of how quick and easy the experience is, it's you have less consumer drop off at that point. Now, what one could argue is, well, how does that compare if you have a vaulted credit card, or tokenized, or if you have a card that's set up for recurring payments? Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, those are recurring payments. That's something completely different, and you can't you need to compare apples to apples. There is today essentially no variable recurring payment method on open banking within Europe. I mean, there is a test going on in the UK with one bank, and that is something that will become available next year, most likely. It's kind of, they're still working on how that's going to, on the regulatory infrastructure around that. So today, open banking is for single-use payments, but down the line there will be a way to get to.
Also, the pre-auth capture part is not covered on online banking, right?
No, it's not covered either.
Yeah. But it's another use case for online banking that
correct.
will be interesting to see if it can be done.
Yeah, correct.
And I think we can also measure quite easy, the impact of online banking in terms of recurring clients. Because in the end, it's very interesting to see if because of the use of online banking, people come back to that again more than they come back to credit cards.
Yeah, no, it's true. So again, when we look at our stats, I mean, we've got probably a good 80-85% of our users that have done. We're looking at it this year, that have done a first transaction with us this year, have done have continued transacting using open banking, right? So it's once you essentially with consumers, once you try it, it keeps they keep using it. And then that goes to the question, okay, what kind of share of checkout can I expect with open banking? And again, that's going to depend on the country. That's going to depend on the integration that you have, on the user experience. But we have merchants who are seeing anywhere from 10 even up to 20-25% of their share of checkout already going through open banking.
Yeah, and listen, if I was a business and I'm running transactions in different sizes, right? So transactions that are small, I might want to divert to maybe to also show credit card options, but transactions that are large, why would I pay that processing fees and just go through open banking and let them pass? I think that the ability to play with when to show what on your checkout is super important if you want to optimize processing costs. We have some questions here. Let's check them out.
Yeah, Arthur. I see Arthur is a bit of an open banking expert, which is great to see. So the question here is around across SEPA region, there are countries that require a manual IBAN to be entered by the user. Should these banks across these countries unify to one API? Definitely agree. So this is going, I guess 30 seconds to go down the open banking rabbit hole. So when PSD2 was launched, the banks were essentially told that they need to issue an API, and they are effectively not making any money on that API. So you have a number of banks that are doing it because they have to do it, not because they want to do it, or not because they believe that, or because they're making any profit out of it. So there are banks that will make that user experience not the greatest because they still prefer their consumers to be using credit cards because they're, the banks are making money on that. So there are banks that will require a consumer to manually enter their IBAN at the start of a open banking transaction. There are fewer and fewer of these, but that's still the case. And I think that, Arthur, to answer your question, I do believe that there will be, requirements to make this as user-friendly for consumers going forward as possible. And again, it's not going to happen overnight. And there are countries where that's, you have more banks that have a worse user experience. And then you have countries where, banks provide a pretty seamless user experience, including, showing a QR code on the desktop where you can simply scan it with your phone camera and you have a very smooth desktop to mobile redirect for transaction authentication. So it's not fully unified across Europe, but it is heading in that direction.
Yeah, and if you connect it to how you integrated it into your website, and the fact you opened it in the right countries under the right terms, business logic that you have and payment logic, and made it all automated, so you don't need to do anything for it to happen actually. So that's where the you don't lose the users on the payment flow, and that's where you show the right solution to the right user that has you know, the highest capability of using it.
Exactly.
So what about languages?
So languages, we support all the European languages. So essentially at checkout, based on IP, we simply show the the bank selection based on the user's IP address, but they can change the country, they can change the language at which in which it's displayed, and then once you go into your bank, it simply defaults to your default bank language settings.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Cool. Let's move on with our slides. So, Vaults and Bridger. I think I'll start by saying that in Bridger we're connecting payment methods and providers, and we're always looking to find those solutions that have the good and amazing user experience for our merchants to use and connect very easily. One of the most important things in adding an online or online banking solution into your checkout is the ability to add it fast without thinking a lot. We've added Vault into Bridger, and every one of our merchants can just now connect you guys alone into his checkout just by clicking his processing account within Bridger. And that's it. So, and it's already going to be in his checkout, enable him to connect him to the routes, build all the payment logic and rules according to where he wants to show Vault and on which conditions and which transactions and which bins and which, basically a full engine that allows our businesses to manipulate and change whatever they want in terms of their processors and methods. And we also have it obviously in every one of our plugins. Mm-hmm. So it can be connected now to every store that work with and shop that work with Bridger in every one of our plugins. So yeah, we have a good reach now, and hope to see more and more clients using Vault.
Yeah, and I think that's key what you mentioned. I mean, getting up and running with an account with Vault is it's pretty straightforward and standard in terms of connecting with a new payment provider. So it's very quick and smooth, and the integration that we have with BridgerPay, it does exactly that, right? It removes kind of the hardest part of actually getting up and running, is how do you actually make sure that you provide a satisfying, seamless experience to your consumers? How can you actually test it to see where it's working for you, where it's better or worse, and how do you actually just develop and implement that logic that you were talking about? And with this cooperation, it's seamless to do so.
Yeah, what can you say more about like the type of merchants and really more a bit about the process of opening account with you guys, and what does it mean?
Yeah, so the process of opening an account is you open an account directly with Vault. So you can either if you already work with BridgerPay, you can contact your account manager, or you can reach out to Vault directly. I can pop an address into the chat afterwards to be able to contact us, and essentially we understand a bit about your business, where you're looking to operate. We simply do typical onboarding of the merchant, collecting some basic documents, getting the commercial terms out to you, and then you're up and running. We'll do a training session with you and with your with your payments team to explain exactly how everything works and what to look out for. Get you in touch with people on our side who can answer questions whenever they come up, and you're up and running.
Anything about regions or companies from regions that you won't accept at this point?
I mean, we won't work with obviously companies from sanctioned countries. I think that's kind of one obvious one. Then in terms of verticals, I mean, we pretty much work with most verticals that are well, pretty much all your mainstream verticals we'll work with, and then the ones that require licenses, I mean, we'll be a little selective about that. We'll dive a little bit deeper into what that business is and how that operates. I mean, obviously things that are illegal, that have to do with firearms or any of these kind of things, like that's definitely not something that we would entertain.
Gotcha. Arthur is asking us if it's hard to have tier 1, tier 2 merchants to use the solution that he would expect to have to be must-have in the future. From Bridger's side, I can say that our biggest client and merchants, if it's airlines and travel agencies and booking engines and big retailers, they all ask us to add online banking as part of the solutions there. So it's coming from them, actually, not from us. I think the consumers are the ones that are pushing to get more and more solutions that they want to pay with. So in my eyes, on how I see it, it's not something that we see big, large enterprise merchants needs us to push to. They push us more to connect as fast as possible.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I think if you look at merchants, you can really split them into two very broad categories. And one is the ones that have traditionally offered some form of bank transfer ability in the past, and that was usually kind of the very manual, disconnected process of showing the bank account details, where a consumer then needs to log into their account, type in the information, try to get the account number right, try to get the reference number right, try to do everything and not forget to do that bank transfer, right? So you kind of had those, and then you had the ones that simply said, no, we're not going to provide that awful experience to our consumers. We want to make sure that we provide a very seamless and quick consumer checkout. And today with open banking, you're actually able to address both of those groups of merchants, right? Because the ones that were traditionally offering this very disconnected bank transfer method are now saying, wow, I can actually have this as good as, if not better than, a credit card checkout. Oh yeah, and it's cheaper. Oh yeah, and I get my money faster. And I don't have a risk of a chargeback, right? And then you have the second group, which wasn't doing that, and they were paying the high card fees for that convenience, which now are saying, well, wow, I can actually provide, again, the same checkout experience or better, and again, have it at a lower cost and have my money faster. So it's both right now that are tapping into it and essentially testing it and offering it to their consumers. And again, it's a matter of consumer adoption, and from what, again, we're seeing is once consumers start using it, they continue using it.
Yeah, they start build an audience of users. It connects to the last question from Arthur that we'll take now. So yeah, to help merchants educate clients to pay with their banks, I think that it's a very big part of how you show those banks. If you show, for example, in Vault, I'm guessing that you can show also the banks that you have in each one of the countries. So it very much helps to someone to see their own local bank in that logo that I just can press and continue my payment with. So it's all about a matter of presentation and how you've added it into the checkout. And if you're trying to push it more in specific countries, then how is the checkout built in those countries? Mm-hmm. What is first? What is second? What is the primer? So payment method that you are using, and that's what you want to play with in terms of checkout to help those consumers in the end pay with the payment method you want them to pay with.
Exactly right.
It seems like I'm the only man.
No, but I do appreciate the questions.
Appreciate the questions, Arthur. Yeah, it's good to have. And yeah, I think if there is any other questions for anyone else, we'll be happy to answer as well. Definitely, online banking is here to stay, and a solution that will grow and evolve in different countries. The challenge of businesses of adding it can become easier today with this combination we did with the Bridger and Volt. And we're happy to show it to everyone who wants to see what we did with Volt and how the integration looks like. Thank you very much, Matt, for joining us today.
Okay. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure. I think, you know, if there's any more questions about Volt or open banking, I mean, definitely, you know, contact Rand, contact your account manager at BridgerPay. I'll pop my email address into the chat in a moment. So if anybody wants to reach out to me to ask more questions, please do so. If you know, you're interested to get in touch, happy to connect you and talk a bit more in terms of how we can actually get you up and running, or go into a bit more details about some of the features that we have.
Cool, great. So thank you, guys. Let's see if we have something else here. Yeah, great. So Matt, that's your email, and yeah, I think we'll say goodbye for now. We have another event soon about Brexit and the way to process together with the changes that it comes with. So I think online banking is, again, one of the ways to solve it and avoid this, you know, non-domestic charges anymore. But yes, we'll be happy to see you in our next events. And thank you for joining us. We have a question here from someone. No, good.
I think on the Brexit one, I think I'll just add that, again, open banking is something that'll be solving kind of the higher transaction costs that are related to Brexit, right? Because you don't have that in open banking. You can, within Europe or within the Europe, you know, between UK and Europe, again, we can process open banking payments. So once again, a way of making sure that you're saving those costs and you're not passing them on to your consumers.
Yeah. No, so like I said, solution to stay. It's solving a lot of problems for merchants, and it will be used more and more. We see it in different countries, and the spread is crazy. Yeah. So great stuff. Thank you very much, Matt. Thank you for joining us and giving us these insights. Happy to learn more about online banking, and happy to connect you guys to Bridger, and hope to see more business together with you guys.
Definitely. Looking forward to it as well. Thank you, and thanks everyone on the call.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.